to New Orleans, you ought to go see the Mardi Gras. If you go to New Orleans, you ought to go see the Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Parade Route. Tonight, we have two characters from the Mardi Gras scene where I would almost say that they are the mascots of Mardi Gras. We have Professor Carl Nivale, and we have Grand Marshal Marty Graw. How are y'all doing today, sir?
Doing wonderfully.
Great.
Thank
Happy
you so
Carnival
much.
to you both.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Thank y'all for coming. So, for starters, I know that y'all are a mainstay on WWL.
Oh, yes.
I mean, for as long as I can remember, y'all have been on the morning shows.
This will be my 24th year as the professor for the WWL morning show.
Wow, wow.
Yes, indeed.
And then you're always on...
I'm on for various productions and performances and stuff throughout the year, but during Carnival, usually I go on and I'm the last minute costume idea suggestion guy. Showing people, okay, just take this, turn it around, put it on your head, and put some stuff and hit the streets.
So how did y'all get into the Carnival world? You know,
I was born and raised here, and my family has either been in or run or had crews, and my mother was a designer as well as a seamstress, and she did costumes for Lucia Liuza, and so thanks to her and my family, by the time I was 5, I was making appliques for Lucia's costumes, working on headpieces and things at 5 freaking years old. I mean, who knew? So, I mean, it's in my blood, that and theater, so.
You are truly born into it here. Like, you almost don't have a choice.
Love it or leave it.
Yeah. Well, I was born into, running after the King's folk to get to the balloon, you know. Like, as soon as you was 3, go. Like, I had the endurance, you know.
Well, I was lucky to enjoy that in my youth, at the same time as, having to go to the balls and at the old auditorium, beat the opening of one ball, and then leave and go into the next ball. And, you know, there's so many aspects of Carnival and celebrating Mardi Gras. You know, it's a joy to be a New Orleanian.
We've always gone to just about every parade that we can possibly hit.
Yes.
It's somewhere around 40-ish a year we hit. But lately, since we've been doing the show, we've been really getting the behind-the-scenes knowledge, and then we've done a couple crews that don't necessarily parade, so we've gotten kind of a window into their world as well. So really, there's so much of it. Even having lived here my whole life, I'm still learning about it.
There is an awful lot of many aspects to Carnival, and I'm thankful that y'all are here to help spread that word.
And you know, it's interesting that you say that. What we've discovered for the past 24 years that I have been Professor Carl Nivale, what I've really discovered is that there are a lot of locals who are born and raised here who truly don't really know the history of Carnival. But what I've also found is that they are so willing and so open to finding out anything that they can find out about the history of Carnival and Mardi Gras in the city, and indeed in the Gulf South. It's always a delight and a pleasure to be able to tell people the history of the celebrations, and to see the light of recognition just pop up in their eyes when you tell them something that they did not know before, and you see all the buttons clicking together. It's really wonderful.
And focusing on the artistic aspect, people they're so interested in getting the throws. They're not looking at the float that's going by and the story that's being told and the artistry that's presented through it, including the handmade throws, like the Muse's shoes and the Nick's purses and the King Arthur Grails and the Carrollton shrimp boots. You know,
the Ira sunglasses.
And the crews having these handmade throws are so unique and so wonderful. That still is part of the artistry of Carnival that people kind of take for granted.
And I love the fact that so many of the crews are really going towards making their own throws, coming up with totally unique things.
It seems to me
one-of-a-kind
that beads
items
are quickly becoming the thing of the past.
Well, beads are, I mean, let's face it, they keep saying, the reason all the houses are sinking in New Orleans is because they have so many beads in the attic. And, it's really almost kind of true. And just this stuff accumulates. But having beautiful artistic knickknacks and things that you can treasure and enjoy, you don't need all the beads unless if you're turning them into an art project.
Yeah,
I'm on a mission this year.
Or giving them to the
all
Ark.
Handmade throws this year. So I've been asking people, what do I have to do? So some of them are making me ride a unicycle and do other ridiculous things.
Yes, we wouldn't know anything about doing ridiculous things.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
But we ride in an Excalibur and we make like hand-painted shields. So we've been doing that for
Yeah, for the
weeks
past
now,
couple
yeah.
of weeks, we've been every weekend we're sitting out in my back patio.
which explains the glitter that I'm going to have forever.
Oh, well, I mean, 24/7, gentlemen, 24/7.
Oh, it's gonna
Our
be
heart
hard.
bleeds.
But you know, glitter has a half-life of 50,000 years.
If ever I
Oh, I
cease to
believe it.
glitz.
But you were saying about the beads slowly being phased out. I
seems
agree
like
with
it.
you. I believe that within the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to see a post-bead carnival in Mardi Gras here in New Orleans. And the anodized plastic beads that we've all been getting from China for the past 40 or 50 years, I see those going the way of the dodo. I see them being completely phased out of carnival and becoming an emblem, a historical item that you look at and go, oh, well, of course, that's carnival in the 20th century.
Well, now, you know, I think Rex was very smart. Last year they had the beads, the Rex beads, and they had these gold medallions, small gold medallions. And we're at the stands and catching them, and it's like, these have some heft.
Oh,
these
yes.
these are real nice little medallions. So that was a nice little, okay, here's an add-on to the beads for now, but I
Well, I
thought that
think
was
you're
a
going
nice.
to keep seeing the crew emblem beads, that kind of thing. I
Yes.
think it's going to
Oh, yes,
remain.
yes, but I also
like
imagine-
generic beads are just kind of.
Yeah, the plain old
Yeah.
blah beads that you can get at Dollar General for like
I do
$1.29.
a lot of recycling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great groups that really they earn money by recycling them. So.
Oh, yes,
Right.
we're big
Well,
supporters of
the
Arc
Arc,
NOLA.
Arc
Yeah.
NOLA.
But there's also a company in town right now. They're taking a year off because they have to catch up. The demand has been so great. But there's a company in town that we've been working with called Bayou Throws, and all of their beads are 100% manufactured here in the city, and they are 100% recyclable.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
they create little medallions so they can do whatever season, whatever color scheme you want on the bead. And then if they don't have the emblem to go on it, they can create it for you. And in fact, they were the very first people to come out the second the yellow pennant leaf flag happened.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
They were the
yeah.
first ones with those
First
beads.
ones right there
And
on
they
top
got-
of it that night.
They got swamped with orders.
Yeah, it seemed like everybody was making those. We had a group of them last year because we rode early, so people were actually kind of hounding us for them, and we kind of kept seeing them throughout Mardi Gras.
They made what, 15 gross or something like
I don't
that?
even remember the count, but
They
my
were
jaw
all
dropped.
sold out within 2 days.
Yeah, I remember at
Absolutely.
one point going to one of the local bead stores, and they had a picture on the door saying, "Hey, get your referee flag."
Yes.
but you're not going to be able to pick them up until like and I
3
think-
weeks left
Yeah,
afterwards.
it
yes.
was literally like the day of our parade. We would have been able to pick them up, and they had a list to where they had to have gotten 50,000 of these things brought in.
And
what I mean?
I really love throws like that, where it becomes so emblematic of that particular carnival year.
Everybody wants it.
Precisely, and you can always point to that bead and say, "Oh, well, of course, that was 2019 or 2018." What was it?
2018.
That was 2018. We saw that. We know when that happened. Here's all the stories that happened, and that's the marvelous thing that I love about Carnival in New Orleans. It brings so many people together. It creates so many memories, and it becomes part of the history and culture that we celebrate every single year. And I never fail to remember every Mardi Gras when we are up there on the stands at Gallier Hall. In the rest of the world, it's just Tuesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
blows my mind. If I was stuck out of town, I'd be on some street corner having a beer. And, boy, what the hell's the matter with you? It's like, hey, it's Mardi Gras.
It's
It's
Mardi
Mardi
Gras.
I spent a few Mardi Gras times up in New York when I in the 80s when I was doing shows up there, and I just having to miss Mardi Gras was heart-wrenching, but hey.
So you mentioned Gallier Hall.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
I mean, y'all are a big part of Gallier Hall. The viewing of a parade at Gallier Hall.
Well, I'm very blessed. Last year, Mayor Cantrell named me her official parade narrator at Gallier Hall. And I was very fortunate to call a number of parades, including Rex, which I had never really gotten to see since the 90s. just because of various things that had to be done.
Right.
But to be able to call the Rex Parade in front of Gallier Hall was an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience to call all of the parades that happened last year. We got to see, and as the Grand Marshal said earlier, we got to see a lot of the same floats happening over and over and over again. By the end of the season, we were actually going,
judging you.
Saw seen you twice, all right.
Oh, you got your main prop torn open. Oh, okay. Oh, the King's float has lost its crown.
I knew there was a bowl of spaghetti that I remember seeing for years and years.
Oh, yes, we saw it last year.
It kept coming around like, there it is. Every year you'll see that bowl of spaghetti.
But I absolutely love being up on the stands at Gallier Hall with the audience that's there in the stands and the folks directly across the street on St. Charles Avenue.
Oh, it's a party.
It truly is. It's like a party in our living room, and we're having it in this parade. It's just rolling.
And the
right
DJ,
through.
when the parade's not there, is filling with music, and we're leading the people in the stands in dances and cheers, and it's
There's a lot
pretty
of
insane.
dancing at Gallier Hall.
Yeah.
You'd be
Oh, yeah.
surprised.
It is a celebration.
So I've never actually seen Gallier Hall during parade time. Generally, you'll walk past it or something. But unless you're sitting in the stands, it's hard to actually see what's happening there.
Well, it is true. And of course, when you're down on the street walking down St. Charles Avenue in between the parades, you've got those high walls that you
Right.
have to look up into. And yeah, it is. It's a truly different experience for both of us. Normally, for Carnival, until last year, we would have been out in the streets roaming around into the quarter.
Well, we've
and
been marching
meeting
with
up
the Society of St.
Anne. And just having a marvelous time, which we always do. But being at Gallier Hall during Carnival, particularly on Mardi Gras morning, you get a real sense of the pageantry and the culture, the decades and decades of culture that goes into these carnival celebrations. And you get a much better idea of how the carnival celebrations and Mardi Gras have really shaped this city to become what it is today. And it's a true connection with our past and with our future standing up there. And I'm very honored to be Mayor Cantrell's narrator.
And with the Gallier Hall connection now, thanks to Mayor LaToya,
Oh, yes.
we are bringing the Professor Carl Nivale Show into the Nord Theater, Ty Tracy Theatre in Gallier Hall, which many people, even New Orleanians, have no idea there's a theater in there.
Yeah.
There's a
For
theater with a
decades.
long history.
Over 5 decades of the Ty Tracy Theatre, when Ty Tracy was still directing it for Nord, the New Orleans
And a
Recreational
lot of stars have come out of that little tiny little postage stamp stage, and that they have torn the entire space apart, renovated it beautifully.
Gorgeous.
It's a lovely, what is it, 105 seats?
105 seats.
105
Small, intimate
seats,
theater.
intimate theater, perfect for the madness that we're getting ready to unleash in there.
Well, we had looked into he had asked me if I wanted to go to the show, but apparently you guys sold out too quickly.
Well, we thought we were sold out. Apparently there was a glitch with Eventbrite. We're not going to hold against them. There are still tickets available for all 4
okay, great.
performances.
Yes.
Okay.
But those tickets are indeed going
They
quick.
are they are moving quickly, so
And the show is being presented with the Mayor's Office of Cultural Economy and with NOLA Voice Theatre, which is a local theatre company here in town. And we're playing at Gallier Hall. Of all places to be playing in the Ty Tracy Theatre at Gallier Hall. It's like Carnival Broadway for us. It really
Right,
is. That's the end-all, be-all for this kind of a production.
and it's that kind of a production where it's I have to say it's scripted in our minds and in our hearts. 95% of it is improv.
Yeah.
5% of it are bullet points that we all 4 of us have to follow. And depending upon how the audience reacts, we'll go off on a tangent and go into
The show is
the
completely audience-driven. No
and
2 performances
we'll grab
are
a
alike.
prop and start talking about the prop and the crew and this, that, and the other, and that'll lead to something else. So we and the audience take this journey together every night, and we did it in Lockport last year. And it was this amazing success. People were literally fighting to get in to see it. So to be able to do it here for 10 performances, 2 a day for this week that we're doing the show for the school kids, and then having 4 open performances to the community it's just a miracle.
And that's February 7th, 8th, and 9th?
That's absolutely correct. We have performances on February the 7th and February the 8th at 7:30 p.m. We have 2 matinees. The Saturday matinee is at 1 p.m. That's February the 8th. And the final matinee is February the 9th. That matinee is at 2 p.m.
And if one
people have a
goes
chance
to
get out of church.
If one goes to carlnivale.com/eventbrite.com, you will find the lead page that you click on, get tickets. It's a little orange rectangle, and it gives you the dates, and the tickets are free, folks. Plus, there's free king cake when the show is over, after we pick the king and queen for that night, and let everybody around for a second line. So there's a lot going on with this.
Well, there's
show.
king cake.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, actually,
Enough
quite
said.
frankly,
Enough said.
I've said from the very beginning, we should just lead with that free king cake.
Free king
There will
cake.
be a free king.
Free tickets, free king cake.
The
And
only catch is it's after the show.
It's
so
after the show.
everyone's
I'm afraid you
just
have to
wait.
sit through it. I'm sorry.
And it's
sit through the
depending
show.
upon you on how long you sit through it. We're usually going for about 58 minutes to an hour.
Roughly 90 minutes.
It
is
can
where
go to
we
90
aim
minutes
for.
to 2 hours, depending upon how much fun we're all having.
The show is entirely audience-driven.
And if the audience is into it, we feed off of it, they feed off of it, and we're all just having a fun time talking about Carnival.
The conceit of the show is that it is admission day at King's College of Carnival Knowledge, where we supposedly work. It's an excuse to talk about New Orleans history.
What do you mean, supposedly? We do work there!
It's admission day at King's College, and 2 students have been caught cheating on their entrance exams.
Oh, no.
Horrors.
Horrors. But the Grand Marshal and I see something in these students,
We see some potential.
and we launch into a full-on galloping tutorial on the history and culture of Carnival. And because no one wants to go to a lesson, we have a game show that happens. We have 2 game shows, actually, that happen during the production.
We have a
there are
tableau
prizes.
vivant.
There's a tableau vivant. We'll be having a fashion show of Carnival fashions. And there is also a parade. And, of course, free king cake. We're just going to lead with that. Free king cake.
so, speaking of king cake,
Yes.
y'all have been a fixture at the King Cake Hub. I see
Oh, yes,
several
since the
updates
beginning.
this year. Yeah.
Will Samuels is a dear friend, and he has a great idea, and it's going gangbusters. And we're very pleased every 12th night to, after the WWL broadcast stuff, go straight to the King Cake Hub and open that and celebrate with everybody. Because that's just a blast. It's a free public experience to help welcome the Mardi Gras morning 12th night morning.
And before that, when he still had Pizza NOLA over in Lakeview,
Yes.
we were there every Mardi Gras morning, because that's when they were still dealing with the Dong Fong King Cakes, but then the controversy happened. So
Yeah, it was off Harrison.
What was the controversy?
Well, the controversy was that people were actually taking the Dong Fong King Cakes and they were selling them at a higher price because they were so popular.
Yeah, I
Dong
remember they
Fong
was
found out
live.
about it and literally pulled all of their locations in the city, including Pizza NOLA, and just started distributing them on their own. Unfortunately, it has completely messed with the business that they had been doing beforehand. Because now the King Cake Hub has their Dragon Claw cake, which is very similar to the Dong Fong King Cake.
But
it's made by
different.
the same, it's a different cake, but it's made in the same manner as the Vietnamese laminated king cake that Dong Fong was making.
But now
So-
let's face it, is there really a bad king cake? Yes, we've had them. We've all had one that's like,
Yes, the ones
oh
that
dear
come from
Lord.
Texas that they sell at Walmart.
But yeah, it's like
Is that where this come from?
there's so many different types of king
Not even
cakes out
Galveston.
there.
Blasphemy.
It's like Fort
Somebody
Worth.
handed me, I walked into one last year, and somebody handed me a slice, and I was like, Walmart king cake, eh? It's
Yeah.
like, nah.
Have you had the king cake on a stick?
I have.
Oh, that's new, yes.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I had one last year. They,
How about the king cake cheeseburger?
No.
What?
No,
I can't
That's
do
a
that.
couple of years
I
ago,
keep.
yes.
I just can't. No,
Who
they still
did that?
making them.
Oh, I know, they still make
Who
them,
did
but
that?
they came out a couple
I
of years
forgot
ago.
who it was,
like
but
food drunk. I
they
think.
made a bun that was like a king cake. It was the cinnamon and everything, and there
and
is
the
your
sugar and-
your melted cheese on your hamburger and all the condiments and things, and
Yeah, it's. I think it's.
That
food
was
drunk
our
that
reaction,
makes it.
too.
Yeah.
my heart won't go on.
I said I like the sweet and savory, but I think I'm going to pass on
Yeah, that's a
that
little
one.
too much.
And that's one of the wonderful things that's happened in the past several years here in town is that the king cake craze has really hit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you see so many variations on the king cake. We have king cake.
January
ice cream.
5th, oh my God, I just got my first king cake. You can't touch it until tomorrow. It's like, oh, come on, please, people. Breathe.
We have king cake ice cream, king cake vodka, king cake hamburgers.
Oh, we know a little bit about king
Oh,
cake.
we
vodka.
love us some
Really?
king cake
I'm
vodka.
shocked.
We have like 5 bottles back here.
My word, yes you do.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that the king cake thing is really taking off, and not
yeah.
just here, but across the Gulf South.
Yes.
So many variations, and I think that that type of variation, that type of innovation, is necessary for Carnival to be able to grow and prosper in the 21st century. We can still pay attention to our traditions, we can still pay attention to the history. But if Carnival and Mardi Gras celebrations themselves are not moving forward, as we saw in the 1950s when the
Evolving.
celebrations became rather moribund,
Yeah.
if things are not moving forward and we're not having, new things that are coming along that play upon those traditions are eventually going to fall by the wayside.
And they're gonna.
They
win.
always do. We've lost a lot. So
Yeah.
Carnival grows and changes.
Oh, yes.
What do you think?
New
You seem
traditions
like
come
you're-
along, old traditions pass along.
Yes, and that's, quite frankly, that's the way things should be. It absolutely should be. I know that we live in the greater New Orleans area, and people are always concerned about the city is changing, and the city is not, it's not the way it was when we were growing up. Well, I'm sorry to
Good.
say, it never was.
Yeah.
The
It was
city
changing
that you
even
grew up
then.
in was not the city that your parents or your grandparents
Yeah.
grew up in. And they had the exact same complaints. And that's the other thing that I love about living in New Orleans is that every square inch something happened. Doesn't matter what, doesn't matter where, something happened here.
Something happened here.
But it's that history and culture that continues to inform and continues to move us forward into the next millennium.
Sure.
That's the thing that I love most about Carnival right now at this second. This is really a golden era in the Carnival and Mardi Gras
I
world.
honestly feel like it's
And
getting
plus,
better
because
and
we're
better.
here for it.
Well, yes.
Well, to me, it felt like. Well, I wanted to ask you a quick question. So, what do you think the penalty should be for like putting the baby back in the king cake instead of getting another one for the next
Flogged
day?
in public in Jackson Square.
Some people I've caught doing this, and they just act like it's not a big deal.
Well,
I don't know about these.
you're always going to run into individuals like that.
But please don't come here and tell us how to, enjoy and celebrate our seasonal holiday and our rules and our history. You don't know.
Okay, here's my thing. If someone's never had a king cake before, do you tell them that there is a baby in there, or do you just let them find out?
Oh, you tell them.
I believe you have to give them a little bit of the history very quickly and briefly that, king cake, blah, 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 there will be a trinket, a baby or another type of trinket that is in a slice, and tell them why. If you get it, you provide the next king cake for the next party, whatever. Give them that background before and tell them, don't take it up and bite it, just tear it apart.
Well, we were talking about how traditions change. When the 12th Night Revelers initially started the tradition of the king cake in New Orleans, it was done with a gold-painted bean that was hidden in the very first cake in 1871.
And the other girls were the silver beans, the court.
So if you got the gold bean, because the king cake was served to the ladies of the court, because only the men at that time, necessarily, it was the time period, were allowed to be members of the crew. The woman who got the golden bean was to have been the queen of Carnival. Unfortunately, the first year they did it, no one really kept track of who got the bean, and they ate it. So the following year, they had the brilliant idea, let's keep track of this.
Yeah, let's write this down at least.
And I've had this discussion for years. There is a belief, because in other parts of the world it actually does represent the baby Jesus, but the king cake baby that we know in New Orleans has no connection to the baby Jesus or to religion
It represents
whatsoever.
a bean.
It doesn't. Because up until the late 1930s, you could find anything in a king cake. You could find a coin, you could find a bean, you could find a thimble, a
The
little
porcelain
trinket,
dolls.
a little porcelain something, any sort of trinket or a ring, for example. That was what you found in your king cake.
You're giving away a lot of stuff that we talk about in the upcoming show at Gallier Hall that you need to get tickets for.
Moving on. In the late 1930s, there was a New Orleans baker named Donald N. Tringer Jr. And Mr. N. Tringer,
There he goes.
because I can, Mr. Entringer had run out of trinkets to bake into his king cakes. He worked for Mackenzie's. His family had bought Mackenzie's a few years previously, and he was up late one night trying to figure out how he was going to put his trinkets into his king cakes. He happened to encounter a traveling salesman, the legend goes, from Mr. Entringer himself in an interview back in the 80s. He happened to encounter a traveling salesman, and the salesman sold him an entire gross of porcelain babies for doll houses. And those were the trinkets that he baked into his king cakes that year. And that is what took hold. That's the thing that everyone suddenly went, oh, well, this is a great idea.
This is
do
the new
more of it.
tradition.
This is the new tradition right here.
Yeah.
It used to be that the trinket inside the king cake meant that you were the king or queen of Carnival. Nowadays, it means you buy the next king cake and keep the party going. So you see how these traditions continue to evolve and flourish and change and continue to serve the celebrations as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
So do any crews besides Funny 40 Fellows do the king cake as a means of selecting a king anymore, or is that...
There are a couple
there are
of ball
several.
crews that still use that
Okay.
method. Necessarily because they are secret crews, we're not able to tell you exactly which
Right.
crews those are, because the ball crews are a different matter than the parading
Yeah.
crews. The parading crews must be transparent because they roll on the streets of the cities. The ball crews do not have to be transparent, and in all fairness, most of the crews were begun as secret societies, beginning with the Mystic Crew of Comus in 1857. It always was and continues to be a secret society.
Now, a part of that aspect, moving forward to what you were saying, the masking to maintain the secret society, it galls me to see people on these floats, these riders, taking their masks off.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
It is part of the
And
mystique.
Metairie will fine you for
Anybody
it.
could be throwing you
I don't know.
this.
They
It's the
find you in
Orleans
Orleans
Day.
Parish as well. In Orleans Parish, it is literally against the law to be on a parade float unmasked.
Yeah.
It's in
There
the
was a
legal
few
statute.
So
guys
just a
don't do it,
pointer
like
to people who
Tux
ride in
doesn't
New
ride
Orleans.
with
There are
masks.
cameras at Gallier Hall. Keep your masks
mask
on.
on.
Yes,
Before-
absolutely.
When did that go into effect?
Oh, it's been in effect for decades.
Well,
Being in effect and enforcement, two different things.
Yeah.
Well, you can't drink on the street either.
Yeah.
As long as it's in glass, you can't.
Yeah, you can't drink out of
It has
glass.
to
Well,
be
I
in
don't
a
think you
plastic.
can. Like,
No,
in
it
public
has to be in a
generally.
No, you have in Orleans Parish, it has to be in a plastic container.
Yeah, if you're
Because when
carrying
you
a,
fall over,
if
plastic
you've got a
doesn't
beer
shatter.
bottle, they will grab you. If it's glass, it's dangerous.
Just thought it was always a law that they just kind of ignored.
Oh, Orleans Parish, you can absolutely get away with it. And probably not so much out here in Jefferson
No,
Parish, but you can.
they're pretty strict out here about keeping your mask on and all. And
Well, and they should be.
Yeah.
Because the parades, I mean, you have an entire audience of people, many of whom may have never seen a carnival parade before. And it's essential to not only maintain the mystery of everything, but to maintain the magic of the entire event.
Well, take, for example, the parade bulletins you've got
Oh,
up there
yes.
with the beautiful floats, the artistry. The crews are telling a story. If you're a crew member, help tell the story. You can take the mask off the second you get off the float. That's no big deal, but leave the mystique.
That's the other thing
We
I
had
love
the
about being at
privilege of
Gallier
walking
Hall is
through-
telling the stories of the parades to
Yeah.
the people who are around us.
we had the privilege of walking through Détail's den at one of the balloon swaps. And Détail in particular is, you really will miss 90% of what's on their float. So
Oh, yes.
Right.
I spent my time kind of looking at them last year, and it was real neat.
Ever since I was a child, I've always been fascinated by the costuming and the floats. And everybody else is grabbing stuff, and I'm just standing there
Yeah. Every year I take thousands of pictures
of the floats.
of the floats.
Uh-huh.
Specifically so that when I get home that evening, I can look through and
Really
see.
enjoy
And really
savor
enjoy
it.
them and analyze,
And like when
yes.
a beautiful floral, 3D
Yeah.
floral on a float, it's like, oh, I got to get a shot of that.
Yeah, I mean it's and I mean you know how much time it takes
Yes.
for the artist to go, you know, to put in to creating, like you said, the floral pieces, the giant heads and whatnot.
All the
that
float
are-
props and things, yes.
Yeah, so it's really a treasure for us to be able to go walk through. Like I know this weekend Rex had an open house.
Right.
So where you
That's
can go
correct.
through
You
and
could
see
go
all
in
the-
and see. And there were some other parts of the event and stuff, but it was a very good thing for the public to have a chance to experience walking in that den and seeing these floats up close and touching them, and plus this year Rex also has a new designer.
Yeah,
That's
this is the
true.
first year
They no
that,
longer have the Blaine
Royal
Kern.
Artists.
They're now with Royal
Yes.
Artists. So
And that was
I'm
a
look-
big shakeup last year.
that was a big shakeup, but I'm looking forward to it because I enjoy Royal Artists artistry. It's whimsical.
I'm not entirely certain that that's not a much better fit for the School of Design, because they are one of the few parades that are still rolling, that are still built on actual wagons and not on truck beds.
Right.
Yes.
And that actually, it makes such a difference. And again, it's one of those things that we were talking about with traditions. It pulls you back to the 19th century when you see these wagons coming down St. Charles Avenue on the uptown route. And you see, they're just so beautiful and so well done. And they're a smaller parade than the other parades. And I think that makes a big difference as well on the route.
It's grand but intimate.
Exactly. That's the word. There is an intimacy to the School of Design's parade with the Rex organization that draws the audience in on all sides of the street. And really makes you focus on the story. And they tell a wonderful story with their parades.
A
every
unique
single year.
story.
Oh yeah.
Plus, riding in a crew and riding on a float, you know how it feels.
Yeah, you're
Riding on a Rex float, totally different experience. Totally different experience.
I do like how each float has an emblem bead.
Yes. Oh,
And,
yes.
So
Well-
like getting the run is kind of a challenge. But
It's tough.
You could do it. I
It's
did
tough.
most of it last year.
And that kind of thing didn't start until out here in Metairie in the 80s.
Really.
When
Yeah.
they start, it's like, oh, we're going to have, the maids and the dukes, and we're going to have this, and then we're going to start having this float. Then we're going to start adding all these floats. And then we're going to have them in different colors. And I think this one of the times when the balloon collecting kind of ebbed.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it's,
yes,
it's,
because
it's,
it became impossible to
it's been
collect them
it's
all.
been a while.
It's
It's been a while this kind of thing has been going. But the Rex medallion beads for each float, people are going wild for. So
Them
I still
and,
like those little heavy medallion beads.
Yeah.
though.
Oh, I caught
Those are
Wonderful.
great.
Love
I
those.
caught one early last year. I was like,
What is this?
Exactly. That was
of
the reaction to
course-
everybody.
Of course, my dad, who's been a collector of doubloons since the 60s, I'm standing next to him. I show him. He immediately just takes it, bing, pops
Pops the bead off.
It's like, all right, there we go.
Well, that little sucker's heavier than a regular doubloon. That
Yeah.
would be 3 times that size.
Yeah, I don't know.
It made me gasp.
They are, yeah, and exactly. That was the thing last year when we were catching them up on the stands. Everyone who got them, they all did the exact same thing. They all gasped in amazement.
This is a keeper.
And yes, exactly. This is the one I'm keeping. This is what's going
It
home
always
with me.
used to be just that little purple, green, and gold bead. That they
Right,
had for
and then
decades.
sometimes you'd have the
little
little
crown on the
plastic
bottom.
crown dangling.
That one stayed around forever. So that's what I actually hadn't seen Rex in a couple of years until I went back last year and saw it, because we usually just come out here, and by that time we're pretty done.
Oh,
You know
yes.
what I mean?
Oh,
So
yes.
it's
Well,
kinda-
of course,
We
Rex
see
was
that's
the
not
last
here.
parade of Mardi Gras.
That's why I missed the
We
bright
no longer
change here
have
in
comas
Metairie.
in the evenings
We used to
now,
do
so
our
there's not
stuff
another
here,
parade coming at
and then
night.
come and
By
catch
the
the
time
parades
Rex
at the end of the
rolls,
route.
the party's really kind of
Can't do it anymore.
It's time to
Yeah.
go home and watch the meeting of the courts.
Do y'all have a personal favorite parade?
Ever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
that could
a
be
good
ever, yeah.
statement.
Well,
Well, we're very
oh,
partial.
The two separate. Split it up into two.
Fair enough. Okay.
What's your current favorite parade?
Current favorite parade?
And then what was your favorite parade that you've ever seen?
There we go. Now we're
There
talking.
you are.
Okay.
All right,
Two.
you start.
Mine is totally an artistic choice, and it combines 2 parades at once. And I'll explain why. It's the night of Proteus and Orpheus.
yeah, that is an amazing.
Because you
night.
have the beautiful, ornate, Art Nouveau, Baroque floats for Proteus, and they're the small scale. And then it's followed by Orpheus, which takes that very same style and explodes it.
Yeah, and makes
so
it a-
that is, mine has to be an evening with Proteus and Orpheus. That
Yeah.
the modern cruise, definitely for artistry. Old cruise, oh, I could pull up things like Helois and Satan and Mokana, Moore, Love, Crew of America.
After
with-
they merged.
after they tried to replace Comus with that. Oh no! It's all the old crews that are no longer with us.
Yeah.
because they helped continue our history and carried it forth into
And pass the
next
torch.
generation. They passed the torch, such as the crew of Ferret, which is no longer with us, but the new crew of Ferret are a bunch of people that were ready to take over the name and everything. And it was like, guys, there was a previous crew. We know. And the guys, you have to represent that crew or come up with another name. And they did some more research and history, and they're like, okay, we got it. So that's really great, that if they're going to continue a crew, they're going to continue the mystique that crew had.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh, well, we're the crew of Olympia. We're the crew of Olympia. We're the crew of Olympia. You're the crew of Olympia. We're all crew of Olympia. You know, it's like, dear Lord, people, if you're in a 60-mile radius, you know.
What you feel about the overall?
Wait, you
sorry,
didn't let
didn't
the
let him-
professor, come on!
You better let him talk, because he'll tell you about it.
It's probably for the best. I might get myself into trouble here.
What's it? All right, so
I
what was
have-
your favorite currently, and then your favorite of all time?
I have a penchant for the crew of Ferret because, as I said, we've been with them since they began narrating their parades every year at Gallier Hall.
And I was in the original crew, so.
And we love everything that Ferret does. We love the fact that they were one of the first crews to go with the handmade, unique throws and recyclable throws, and I love what they do. I'm also my taste may be a bit pedestrian. I love the crew of Mid-City. I love seeing all that foil coming rolling down the street.
Yeah.
The sunnier it is, the more I like it. Please turn my retinas into bacon. I want to see it all.
No, I'm with you.
I grew up with that parade, and like
yeah.
I said, I will never stand watching the parade with the sun behind me.
Don't be silly. You've never grown up.
This is true. This is true.
As far as older parades, when I came to New Orleans in 1991, Comus had just left the parade route.
Yeah.
I never got to see Comus. I do see Proteus, and of course we talked about Rex. But I think one of the parades, and it's not even a parading crew per se, it's a marching crew. My favorite parade that I no longer get to do is the Society of St. Anne parade. I love St. Anne so much, and they go out there first thing in the morning on Mardi Gras, no matter the weather. They're out there, they start at 8 o'clock in the morning, they go all the way down to Salute Zulu and Rex. There's a whole ceremony that happens afterwards with the members. It's a private sort of ceremony, but there's a documentary on it called Cutting Loose that talks about St. Anne and their traditions. And one of the traditions that they have is if any of the members have passed away in the previous year, they're cremated, their remains are split up amongst the members. They are wrapped into bundles.
We don't need to give the
bags.
recipe.
But they are allowed to
recipe.
march one more time through the streets of the city, salute Rex one final time before their remains are cut loose by the members of the crew.
And then we're the crew that created the Gafflon poles. They're called crab
The ribbon
nets.
poles,
The
yes.
ribbon poles. Everybody else does them now.
Yeah.
We started that. And after the ceremonies and the ashes are cut loose, those poles are dipped in the river and people are baptized.
As for parades that no longer roll, I rather miss Shangri-La.
Yeah.
I really do. I didn't think I would, but I do.
Do you have any worst Mardi Gras? Just absolute between the weather, the crowds.
One of the best was the year when the police were on strike.
Oh, yes,
Everybody in the corner
79.
was so good, and everybody was like policing one another. It was just a wonderful experience.
What
Yes, I'm
was,
that old.
What was the Mardi Gras where it was so bitterly cold? It was too cold for even
And then
us to be
and
at.
then wet
Yes,
and
cold
rainy
and
and
wet.
freezing. That was just like about 4 or 5 years ago.
14,
Yeah.
2014?
Yeah, that
Yes,
was not
thank
that
you.
long ago.
That's
It
what-
was
that was
horrific.
miserable.
Horrific.
That was truly a miserable carnival.
Where when you got to the stands, you had like 5 people, out there.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I remember that year because, like I said, we go to, 1.5 billion parades, it feels like, every year, and we'll stand out there in the rain. We'll stand out there in the cold.
You put
Rain
them
and
And
cold?
cold,
Put 'em
that's a whole
together?
different matter,
No.
yes.
Ooh.
Well, that was the year that I think we had gone to
Yeah.
Orpheus and we'd come back over here to see. Who was that? Was that Pandora's first ride?
No,
maybe.
Zeus.
Oh, okay.
That was the.
Oh, yes,
It was
there's-
brutal. Ooh, it was cold.
Oh,
It was
missing
just-
parades. Caesar.
Yeah.
Caesar's gone.
Caesar
Our
is
first
gone.
year without Caesar. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I had heard rumblings
Yeah.
that they were moving to Kenner, and then all of a sudden it
Well,
just
ISIS
came
got
out.
that.
Exactly.
They just came out. They're like, well, they sold their floats. So I was like, oh well, hell, okay, I guess they're done.
I was stunned when they said that Caesar would not be rolling this year, but we were equally stunned when Zeus stopped parading.
Yeah.
Well,
Very
it
much
seems
so.
like the captain wanted to retire, and really none of the family wanted to take it over.
Right.
That's a shame.
So it was.
But going back to when not Caesar, but Zeus and Helois and Diana went down the service road to Severn and down Metairie Road. I mean, speaking of Carnival changing and stuff like that, it was so nice to have these neighborhood parades like Gentilly had Pandora and Hercules in their area. Every part of the city had their parades, and now they're all whittled down to these generic layouts. Where all the parades, you're in New Orleans,
But this
you're
year,
route.
we have the brand new crew of Nefertiti that's
Nefertiti.
marching in New
Rolling out
Orleans
in the
East. The
East.
first time that they've had a parade in the East in 28 years.
Yes.
Yeah. We've got ISIS that's rolling out.
ISIS
in
has
Kenner.
returned to close to their original
ISIS
route.
returned Jesus.
They left.
No,
After-
Jesus isn't returning for a parade this year.
They left after 7 years of rolling on that route to go to the standard veterans route, and now after it's almost 40 some odd years, they're now back in Kenner on the route that they used to have for the most part.
Right.
And I love that. It's time to start. We've done the whole thing of trying to compartmentalize Carnival.
Yeah.
And we have seen over the past 40 years that compartmentalization has actually shrunk the celebrations down considerably.
To a controllable route.
Controllable, yes, but at the same time, constricting.
Yes.
Now that the parades are able to move out into the wider areas, out into the east, where they truly needed a parade, to be perfectly honest, into Kenner, who needed a parade. Now that things are starting to move out, I think that's one of the other things that will begin to happen
It
with
might
Carnival.
help with overcrowding,
Precisely.
And that's
And
the
traffic.
reason.
traffic.
Well, how many of you remember
You're not going to
the
fix traffic.
Kenner Mardi Gras Day Parade?
I remember going to one years ago, and
It
used to
ran for
land-
about 3 years, maybe 4.
Where did it end? By the mall, Esplanade.
It was way out, way
Oh,
out.
yes.
in
Is that
Kenner.
where it ended?
Down
I don't
Roosevelt.
recall where it was.
It was called Romulus and Remus.
What, it would go down Roosevelt to Vets?
No, it didn't even hit Vets.
It was a neighborhood parade.
Yeah.
Just Roosevelt?
No, Roosevelt and along the canal and everything. It was,
Oh, West Metairie. Like,
Yeah,
And then the crew of
West Metairie,
Salinas,
West
which was out-
Napoleon.
yeah.
went up and down on the other side of Williams, and
And I expect
We've
next
lost
year
so much.
we'll start seeing parades going back to the West Bank.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
yeah,
as
that
well.
feels weird for the poor West Bankers.
Yeah, they have the one.
They have to
London
always
parade.
come over.
Grella.
Yeah.
I miss Grella.
Grella.
Yeah.
Of all things
Grella
to
was
miss,
always
I
fun.
miss Grella.
Poisson. Poisson. It took
I do-
forever for that parade to get
Or
through.
especially, like, the West Bank has plenty of spots to have parades.
It's built for
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Right underneath the West Bank Expressway, they have 4 lanes on both sides, a neutral ground under the bridge that could be used.
Just like they do in the outlying parishes. That's
Yeah.
exactly correct. The West Bank is built for parades to happen and for large crowds to be accommodated in those areas.
I always like Choctaw over there, but honestly, I do love them uptown too. That is a spectacular
Yeah, to
parade.
see the giant teepee coming down St. Charles. Is,
Oh, they've
Have
got
you
an
experienced the
excellent
boat parade
narrator
yet?
too. I forgot
We
the
went
gentleman's
last year,
name,
we
but
sat- we
I've
stood
seen
on
him for
a
years. He
sailboat
does a
and watched
marvelous
it.
job.
Excellent.
Village,
He's an
we've
excellent
gone
narrator,
several
and,
times.
but he might not be there. He told us last year that he might be retiring.
Yes. Yes.
Who's this?
The narrator for the Choctaw Parade at
Oh.
Gallier Hall. I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, but he's been doing it for years. He's very good at what he does. And I'm hoping he will be back again this year. But he told us last year that he was considering retiring, and his son apparently has no interest in calling the parade for Choctaw. So I don't know. I may be doing it.
wow.
It's possible.
Man.
That's I've always liked that one. It just has its own uniqueness to it, and it's always been a well done parade. What do you think about the overall health of Mardi Gras moving forward? To me, it seemed like there was a bit of a lull before Katrina come along, and then all of a sudden there's just all these parades
Revitalization.
just blew up. The crowds are, I feel, stronger than they've ever been.
Well, you got to go back
Yeah.
to the Mardi Gras we had after Katrina.
Yeah.
We had moved to Orlando and working for Disney at the time, and when we came back, there was across the country. I mean, we were getting people in our faces in Orlando telling us this, but people across the country were like, tear it all down, turn it into a parking lot and move on.
Dreadful
Why are these people wasting their time and money? You know, they're dying down there and they need help, but they're putting all the efforts into this Mardi Gras thing. That's just drunken revelry. And it's like, well, no, it's far more than that. But if we didn't have that carnival, it was the most important carnival in our lives because we had to have it.
Yeah.
It
We
showed
talked
We
that-
had to have that celebration.
You know,
Right after
the
New
whole
Year's,
experience of that Mardi Gras is like I'd come back in, you know, helping everybody fix their house, and mine was relatively unscathed, so we were fortunate. But you know, when you saw everybody coming down, and some people didn't have throws, I saw some people like handing bags to people on the floats because, I mean, they had life going on, but they still wanted Mardi Gras to happen.
Oh, yes.
I saw a lot of food and drink, and not alcohol, just like soft drinks or lemonade or whatever in containers being handed to people on the floats,
Yeah.
thanking them
Yeah.
for doing this. And I think that's why we've exploded now, because people who were here remember that feeling, and they want to enjoy that feeling and continue.
And, you know, we talk about this in the Professor Carl Nivale Show.
We do?
Yes, about the Carnival of 2006 right after Katrina.
That is February 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Thank you.
Yes.
But we talk about this in the show, about how that particular carnival was one of the most important carnivals in modern history. People who used to, right after Katrina, when it was announced that we were going forward with Carnival, people who used to flee from the city every single year to avoid the celebrations came back, and they stayed for that particular carnival. We had to show the entire world, not just the nation as a whole, but the entire globe, that Carnival is not just a party. Carnival is, it is us. It is our tradition. It is our culture. There's a phrase that I use constantly in everything that I do, our carnival heritage.
Yeah.
If we had not celebrated Carnival in 2006, I don't doubt that any of us would be sitting here now discussing Carnival in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It would have fallen by the wayside. People would not have come back, and anything that might have shown up in its place to replace it would never equal the history, the tradition, and I keep going back to the words culture and heritage because it's so ingrained in who we are as New Orleanians, to be able to have this celebration, to be able to go out and express ourselves in the ways that we know how to express ourselves, to be able to share the joy and the incredible joie de vivre that we have. It's
Fancy.
$5 word.
Oh,
$5 phrase. Look it up. But to be able to bring everything that makes us New Orleanians, makes us Louisianians, makes us people of the Gulf South, and spread it to anybody and everyone who cares to come and watch and enjoy it with us, and freely and generously. There's a reason why Mardi Gras is the greatest free show on earth.
yeah.
Because New Orleanians provide the greatest free show on earth, and we do it every single year with gusto and vigor and love, and that's the reason why.
And we
That's
believe
the
this
whole
because there's actually video. The carnival we're talking about, 2006.
Oh, yes.
We were in the stands at Gallier Hall.
Associated
figure.
Press.
Associated Press interviewed us, and the guy was rather kind of snarky about it. And
Wasn't getting away with
both of
that.
our interviews were the same thing.
Wasn't getting away with it.
No, we were going to say, we're going to teach you that New Orleans is a gumbo, and somebody has tipped the pot of the stew, and the name was Katrina. And we need to pick that pot up and keep that stew going. So,
We were in Orlando, and I had this fellow from Chicago who insisted upon telling me that our city didn't deserve to be rebuilt, and why are you living below sea level, and blah, blah, blah. And I was able to tell him point blank to his face, it took a natural disaster to put my city to its knees. Your entire city was taken out by a cow.
Yeah.
but he's not bitter.
The way I see it, so much has happened to the country as a whole, not only New Orleans, but the country as a whole. A lot has happened within the past 20 years.
Yes.
And for some reason, the worse it gets, the better Mardi Gras gets, and the closer people get to
Because
at the
it's
same
also
time.
therapy.
It's therapy.
It's therapy. It's a release.
And there's a satire element that goes
Yes.
along with Carnival.
Every year,
That's why people go to
when
see
the
Crew de Feu and
Superdome
Crew
lights
Delusion.
went out, I saw so many dance groups dressed as energy people.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like
2006, how many people were walking around in blue tarps as their costume?
Blue
Yeah.
tarps
They
was
made fun
the
of blue
fabric.
tarps.
Yeah.
It was the fabric that year.
It truly was.
They even did a carnival costume and fashion show, not just carnival clothing. Everything had to be made out of tarp. And some of these things were like haute couture. I mean, it's like you'd expect
Like, well done.
Audrey Hepburn
Yeah.
coming down the steps or some, it's just amazing stuff. Blue tarps.
and then every 4 years when the elections go on,
Uh-huh.
usually you always have to expect presidential or
Satire
yes.
on
Satire.
all
Yes.
sides.
All
Satire
sides.
of
and it's
Mardi
never
Gras.
one-sided. It's cut straight down the middle.
Oh, it has to be.
And, by comparison,
That's why I
our
love going to
political
Crew de Feu.
satire is tame compared to what they do in German Carnival. The Germans take no prisoners.
No.
Oh yeah.
They truly do not. They're going to tell you exactly why it's like this, and you're going to accept it, and it's right there on the
And
street.
it's not just the Germans. It's also the Italians.
That's true. The Italians don't take any
Some of
prisoners
those parades in some of those cities, the floats, there's no way. I mean, like, you could pick up an Orpheus float and put it on the dance floor of one float.
either. Seriously.
Yeah.
They're-
Oh, yeah.
And they're transmorphs. They just grow and amazing stuff.
Yeah, so this is the satire of Mardi Gras. I mean, throughout the year, as I see news stories, I don't like the first thing that comes to my mind is, and it may seem like a morose thing to think, but like,
How are they
like
gonna
when
pull
you
this
see, like with the sewage and water board.
Oh,
when you
yeah.
see all of the controversies with sewage and water board.
Oh, yes.
The first thing that I think is, oh my God, coup d'etat is going to literally
eviscerate.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see how many collapsed hotels are in Crew de Feu this year.
yeah.
That's what I'm really
Oh,
waiting for.
that's getting into even another storyline and conversation.
But it's
and
all
it could
part.
be morbid, but
It's all part and parcel.
with Zulu and Endymion having to alter their parade routes to avoid being too close to this thing.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that. Having to move Zulu is one thing. Having to move
Endymion
Endymion.
is a completely
Endymion
different matter.
down St. Charles was a nightmare.
In
They're not
2006,
doing
they
it.
had nowhere else to
They're
go.
not doing it,
Yeah.
but
He's right. It was an absolute nightmare because Endymion is just far too large.
the
for St.
path they
Charles
have to
Avenue.
take, Loyola and Elk Place and stuff, to get over to Poydras, to get over to us on St. Charles, it's not clear. The clearance.
Yeah, they're
so
going
they're
to
gonna
have
be
to do some
fix it.
serious tree trimming in
Wait,
order
so
to
they
get
are
those
going to
parades
ride
through.
down St. Charles again this year?
Yeah,
Well, no, they're going down Canal, and when they hit Elk's Place,
They're taking
they're
the right,
turning up to Elk's Place.
and they're going down to
And-
Poydras, and then from Poydras they're turning
they're
on to
turning
St. Charles.
right
So
on to
you
St.
meant-
Charles.
Yeah, 'cause a couple of years where they were rained out, they had to follow Bacchus, and
That was a nightmare.
oh, it's just too long of a day.
Well, these are
As
fond
much as I love
memories.
parades- As much as I love parades, that's too much.
Yeah.
Well,
Whoa.
you saw the comedian Buck Henry
It's not a
just
parade,
passed
it's a
away
miniseries.
recently,
Yes.
and everyone has been talking about that Mardi Gras in '77 when Saturday Night Live came. I can't even say it. Came down here to do a carnival special,
Live.
and here's Buck Henry and Jane Curtin waiting for Bacchus to show up,
And they're on
it
Canal
never
Street.
Arrived.
Yeah.
It never arrived. The entire broadcast, it never showed up because Bacchus was running particularly late that year.
It had some generator and
Yeah.
tire problems.
Oh, yes.
And it wound up ending up with them saying, well, we just don't think there's a parade. We think that these people are
Jane
crazy.
Curtin.
We
Mardi
believe
Gras
that-
is a French phrase. It means no parade. Good
that-
night.
Yes, that means that they're getting it in the water. There's something in the water. All these people are insane. They're crazy. It just...
Is that when they had Jim Belushi and all them down here too?
Oh, yeah,
John,
all of
yeah,
them-
Jim was still
All
in-
of them
in
were
high school
here.
at that point.
They did a Streetcar Named Desire spoof. Laverne and Shirley were here. They
That's
were the
true.
guest stars on that
Penny
episode.
Marshall.
So
Cindy
yeah,
Williams.
if you can find that episode, it really is hysterically embarrassing to watch for every reason you can imagine.
Now, you can't find the episode on YouTube. You can't really find it online any place without having to pay exorbitant prices to do so.
However,
Because Lorne Michaels, the producer of Saturday Night Live, was so disgusted with the entire broadcast that he pulled it from ever being re-aired. However, the 40th anniversary box set of Saturday Night Live that came out a few years ago. The episode exists in the box set. It's an Easter egg on one of the discs. You have to know where to look for it, but you can find the information online. And it's very, very interesting to watch. Dan Aykroyd up on top of the Jackson Square statue.
And we could actually talk about this during the Professor Carl Nivale Show
And
at
will.
Gallier Hall. If you come and ask the question, we might give you the information on
February 7th, 8th, and 9th.
In the Ty Tracy Theatre at Gallier Hall. Thank you, sir.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
We appreciate that.
Cheers.
So see, you have some of your Mardi Gras treasures.
A
over
few of
here.
our treasures. We are happy to bring them along. This is from the 7th. We talked about the Cruavala. This is their 75th anniversary
Yes.
Fell in
throw.
love with
It's
it?
a favor, actually. And the difference between a favor and a throw is that you catch a throw from a parade. The favors are handed to you at the ball.
Ooh.
And the muses, happy are they whom the muses favor. It's in their bylaws.
We are evidently well favored.
Can you show turn the shoe to angle towards the camera, because inside the shoe is you.
Yes.
And also on these little bubble gems all along is the professor and also the Grand Marshal over the years doing all manner of broadcasts and stuff.
This was made for me by the crew of muses for the professor's 20th anniversary,
Oh, wow.
including that one right there, which is the professor as Savory Sam, the Hubig's Pie Man.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Sorry?
These are put together by our dear friend Nori Pritchard, who is one of the co-owners of NOLA Craft Culture. And she, for several years, she has gifted us both a shoe. And I don't have a Grand Marshal shoe yet, Nori, but I treasure this. It was the first one she made for me. And this is Merlin Rainbow from Pontchartrain Beach.
This was made in 2015.
And I don't know how many of y'all are out in the audience remember Pontchartrain Beach. For about 6 years, there was a costume character magician who did shows on the Midway, who was the character that represented Pontchartrain Beach. And I was Merlin Rainbow for at least 4.5 of those years. And so she knew this about me, and she made this Merlin Rainbow shoe for me. So I brought this in today for show and tell. I hope you don't mind. Thank you.
Do you have any photos from back in the day?
Of course.
Oh,
Of
yes,
you
absolutely.
Oh, yes.
As Merlin?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's one of
And
the.
then went right into being one of the Seymour fairs at the World's Fair. Then Universal, then Disney. So it's like, performing in those big character costumes.
Stepping ladder. It's a stepping ladder.
Stepping ladder?
Yeah, like a step
Okay.
ladder.
And then an Arthur.
King Arthur, this was presented to us last year by this year's Merlin and Morgan Le Fay. And, well, I mean, it's just a great big statue. Go ahead. hold it.
Is it
Remember to
hefty?
thank all the little
Pickle.
people.
Shapely. I don't know the words to use for that.
The phrase du jour is shapely.
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 Go ahead.
Since
have a
you
hit.
made it awkward.
Yes, please, absolutely. Have a
Oh
hit.
my god.
Oh, yeah.
When you
It
agree,
is very
shapely.
Well, you turn it around and look at it even if it was a real Oscar, right? So,
Shapely.
and he ain't got no clothes on. So,
Though I have yet to figure out exactly why he's wearing Bermuda shorts
I was about to ask that
yeah.
and boots. That's a look.
It's like biker tights.
question. I've seen the one from this year. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
We're hoping he gets a little brother.
He's good. It's a different look to it. But yeah, easily recognizable as an author statue.
Yeah, seeing the craftsmanship on the shoes and
The detail that goes into
the
it.
detail, that's one of the real things really why, as we were talking about earlier in the show about, the signature throws, how that's really become the hot thing to catch.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
And then,
The
of course, you
parades.
have this artistry and all these different things like the goblets and the shields and the boots and the shoes and the purses and stuff and the masks and the glasses. It's when a crew member is creating something particular for a particular person, friend, or family member. I mean, like a professor shoe for the
Yeah.
professor. A Merlin Rainbow shoe for a guy who was Merlin Rainbow at the beach. It's like when those things are personalized, you don't get rid of them. You
Yeah.
treasure them forever.
Oh, we have these all live in display cases.
Yeah, well, even like some of the generic shoes or generic purses that I've caught over the years, the generic signature throws. It's still, it's a beautiful piece of art that I keep it enshrined in my living room throughout the year.
Well, it used to be everybody wanted to get the Zulu coconut.
Zulu coconut,
That was the
coconuts.
signature
That was
throw
it,
everyone
yeah.
wanted. Then the Muses came along with their decorated shoes, and those became popular. Now, Iris with their decorated sunglasses. What's the crew that does? We have the Grails with King Arthur, and there's another crew that does cups now. Does the stemmed? Is it Nyx?
No.
Well,
There's
Nyx
another crew
does the
that does them.
purses.
Nyx does the purses, yes.
Allah has genie lamps.
Oh, yes,
Right.
that's right.
We have the shields. Centurions does swords.
Pandora's doing boxes
Yeah,
this year.
Pandora's doing boxes.
That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Which is great.
Let's see.
Plus, they're functional. Hopefully, if they open.
Little jewelry boxes. And
Yeah.
Mona Lisa Moon Pie, while they're not a Mardi Gras crew,
True.
they do a
Little
decorated
plaster,
moon pie.
Oh, yes. Yes, they've
Well,
been
you
around
have
for quite some time
Dance
as well.
groups like the Disco Amigos. They have the records.
The records.
It seems like a lot of those crews, Muffaladas, when they were doing it's similar to Moon Pie, where it's a little plaster cast that they decorate little Muffaladas
Oh, yes.
and all that.
And that's
I
the
just
other
think
thing.
it's great. To me, I could care less about getting beads of it. I'd want to bring one of those home.
Of course. And that's why I believe beads are going to be moving out in the next 10 to 15 years. I really do believe people are going to become much more interested in throws like these that are so much more personalized and really speak to that experience at that particular time.
Yeah.
You look at a pair of Mardi Gras beads from 30 years ago, and you could have caught them yesterday from any parade, and you wouldn't remember which
Except for
parade
the
or
old
when.
Czechoslovakian glass beads.
Except for the glass
Those
beads. I
are
have
coming
had
Which are
glass
coming
beads a couple
back.
I like that. Those
Yeah.
It was either 1969 or 1970. The games people played was the theme for the crew of Jason out here in Jefferson
Yeah.
Parish. And they made history because the dukes and the maids all had these headpieces that had some kind of animation on them. And then it was with Endymion with the maids and dukes and the kings and queens with neon on the headpieces and mantelpieces. So things are progressing
It
more and
evolves.
more, and we're getting more. I mean, imagine nowadays we have a computer. We can have a computer on our phone.
Yeah.
Way back when, you had to answer the phone on the wall, and that was it. You had,
Yeah.
you had to get up and turn the channel to three of the
And
channels that
and
were available on
before
TV.
that, it was
So now
Morse
we have
code,
more
you know?
expertise. We have more
Radio.
materials, more, just information out there that we can get. There's some people now. There's a fabric company that has released this fabric that you can cut it, you can shape it, you can sew it, you can glue it, you can do whatever you have to, and then there's a thing that you hook to it, and it just starts changing colors on its own.
Oh yeah.
It's like a sheet
Chromatic
fabric.
fabric, yes.
You know, I
Yes.
mean, just imagine the possibilities.
And I'm hoping that with this new focus on the handmade throws and moving out towards the beads, I'm hoping now, because it's becoming easier and easier to do with electronics and miniature motors, I'm hoping to see more animation happening on the parade floats themselves, like they used to be in the 50s and
Yeah,
the 60s.
miss the old days when the Boy Scouts used to
Crank it.
pedal
Yeah.
pedal the bikes inside the float.
Yeah, to make the
So the head
little-
can move and the ears can flap and the eyes can do this and the lip can gibber.
Well, they were
Well,
doing
one of
that
the-
up until like the late '80s, which I never
Yeah.
understood. They had motors.
And they have
Why don't they put
motorization
them
now.
It just like everything else, it fell out of
weird.
fashion.
Well,
And-
the thing is with if you try to take the technology of today, especially with electronics and programming a moving piece, that takes a lot of money. It takes companies that haven't been created yet. So if there's someone watching this,
But they have been created.
there's certain companies, and this is where certain people like haunted houses, the animatronics, and things break. Animatronics
Oh,
yes.
break.
Oh,
so
yes.
those floats that are in multiple parades and are going to get reused because it's going to cost money. So they're like, we're not doing this one year. We're going to reuse this float. They're going to use it multiple times. But the technology's here. It's just the pieces haven't been put together yet, I think.
Well, go to it.
That's a valid point.
Put the pieces together. Yes.
And
What's the point
one of the
say?
reasons that the animation disappeared in the 80s from the parades
Yes.
is because of the oil bust. There simply wasn't the money to keep the floats operational and to have the people necessary inside of them, like the Boy Scouts in there, churning to make the heads move. And then by the time we got to the place where in the 90s we had recovered from the oil bust and we were moving on towards a more tourism-based economy again, that had gone the way of the dodo. It was never even thought about.
I remember there being plenty of animation on floats.
Lots of animation.
We had spoken with the guys that are doing the Mad Hatters this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Brand new.
I'm obviously
they're
very curious
apparently-
about that crew.
We're very curious about it. We've seen a lot of the renderings.
The
It
drawings
looks like
are
it ought to
beautiful.
be pretty cool. But they're bringing back a lot of animation to there.
Oh, wonderful.
That's
And it might have sort of, I don't know, Disney / Mardi Gras feel to it.
What I've seen so far looks like they've taken an awful lot of the Disney animated feature for its basis.
That would be very interesting parades. We're really looking forward
We're
to
talking
that
about
one.
innovations. One thing I wanted to bring up is that all hail to the crew of Tux. They have a long
Yeah.
float this year that is handicapped accessible. So there will be the
First
mechanism
time ever.
so
Yes.
that people riding wheelchairs in Tux can be a part of the parade.
Just
Yes.
reported on this before we came to do the
That
interview
is
this
just
evening.
that's marvelous.
They had mentioned that to us.
Speaking
when they
of
were here.
innovations.
They were very proud of that because it's always been the rule that you had to get on and off the float with your own power. So,
yes.
And it's a tiny little
know.
step. In the
yeah, it's,
And
you better
another-
be agile because these things are not. Plus, the float's going to move with you and everything else.
And another thing, what you're saying back in the day with just the phone, now that people can easily share ideas, was it the one with the breastplates? Who was that?
Dames de Pelage.
Dames de
Perlage.
Perlage.
They say that you have to actually, that they send out a template electronically. You fill it in, hey, this is my idea. You send it back to the captains.
Yep.
They approve it. Imagine how long that would take back in the day. Like, all right, here, I drew this out.
Precisely.
But
Things
now you
move
can
much
do
quicker
it
now.
Yeah. Things move a lot quicker. Things
yes.
can get done. So Mardi Gras does evolve with the times,
Yes, indeed.
As it should.
as it should.
So another important aspect to y'all is your costumes. I mean,
Oh,
you're-
yes.
You're,
That's
like you
part of
mentioned
growing
that
up
you're-
here as a costumer and also being a theater kid and growing up and doing theater and being in the chorus all the way up to the stars roles and stuff. I've always created sets, props, and costumes, poster graphics, whatever is required. And so just through Simply Stunning Designs -NOLA, which can be found on Facebook,
Say that one more time.
Simply Stunning Designs /NOLA.
Dash NOLA.
Dash
Slash
NOLA.
is like this. That's
Dash. All right. / dash. Like dasher. Right.
You were saying?
Oh, yes. So, what I was saying was something.
Costumes.
Yes, the costumes. We are upgrading the professor a bit this year.
Yes, it's time for.
We're getting a new robe created, and we're working on a
This will
new
be going into the
scabbard.
archives now at the Historic New Orleans collection.
A new scabbard, a new mortarboard. We're trying to work on that, but it may be beast and stuff. And Grand Marshal is a clothes horse, so this is just a light loafing ensemble. I've got 2 hugely decorated white tux tailcoats and ensembles that I'll be debuting at the Carl Nivale Show at Gallier Hall.
And that is February 7th, 8th, and 9th. People. Thank you. You set them up, I knock them down.
Set them up, baby. Set them up.
And you're right, costuming, of course, we are like this throughout the carnival season, but we are constantly encouraging people
Yes.
on the street to costume and mask, and not just when we're on the street, but also on all of our social media.
Well, it's important to also teach people the things that are correct and incorrect as they start making a mask. It's like, have you cut the eye? Don't start decorating it just yet. Put it on your face. See how it's going to fit. Cut the eyes out as much as you need. Do this, that. It's just that's part of what I wind up getting to do with Simply Stunning Designs work, whether it's sets, props, costumes for carnival crews or theater or ballet or whatever, is just the people's comfort. how to make work within the budget. Oh, we have 2 cents. Oh, okay. Can you make it look like 2,000? Oh, okay.
I think
Glue.
comfort.
Glitter. Go.
Comfort is the biggest thing. You're gonna have to wear
Comfort.
this for hours.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Oh my God!
You're gonna
People
have to
wearing these
walk
big
around
heel
and-
shoes in the
Yeah.
quarter. It's like, are you
No.
crazy?
Yeah.
But more importantly than just the costumes that they're wearing and comfort, it's the fact that you need to participate in
Yes.
what happens, particularly on Mardi Gras. We've noticed over the years we have participatory gras and
Yes.
we have observational gras. And when there are more people watching than there are masking and participating,
It's rough.
those are always terrible carnivals.
It's rough.
Always.
Feels like
Because
depending
there's
on
people
where you
not
go.
they're observing and they're like judging and they're belittling.
Their
and
arms are
they're
folded.
ready. Yes, they're
Oh, yes,
ready
you
to
see them on the
fight.
parade route to this day. They're just standing and watching, and they're refusing to participate, looking down their noses at everything. And invariably, those same people are going to get into a fight later on in the evening that's going to make the news.
But the participatory gras, different matter.
Completely different matter. When there are more people participating by masking and painting their faces and putting on costumes than there are people standing on the sidelines doing this.
I really
It's
feel
always
like
marvelous.
It depends where you go. Like
Yeah,
if you go uptown, I hardly see any costumes anymore.
Yes.
It's almost gone.
Yes.
If you
And
go
sadly, that's-
towards
If you do,
downtown,
they're collegiates.
You know, yeah, but even then, it's like maybe they'll put a little face paint on.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Like
We've
I remember years ago, almost everybody would dress up. I mean,
But
I
at the
did
same
as a
time, you
kid,
gotta
and-
think with the influx of people moving into the city in certain parts of the city, they don't know those traditions, and the people that came before them failed of passing that torch. Like,
Yes.
hey, you're supposed to dress up. So many people have not been called out. Like, why are you wearing your costume?
Well, I agree with that, but I just don't want to have somebody from Schenectady say, well, this is how we do it in Schenectady, so you have to do it that way. No. You're here.
cannot tell you.
You do it the way we do it. But you're right. People have
Yes.
to tell them.
Well, like a
They have to
lot
be
of
taught.
people in Uptown are transplants, and no one has told them.
Nowadays.
Nowadays.
And it is very upsetting for us when we are out, roaming around doing what we do. Even when we're at Gallier Hall and we see the folks from the uptown area come wandering down towards the quarter. When you see a group of people and they're all wearing the same polo shirts, with
The gold, purple, green.
yes,
The white
and that's
pearlish
literally
shirts.
all they have on, and they believe in their minds.
They might be clever
They're
and wear a
completely
green
celebrating
pants
Mardi
or
Gras.
white pants or purple pants.
I haven't the faintest clue what is going on in those people's
Well,
heads.
when you look at the crowd on Bourbon, just the sea of people, and you see those T-shirts, obviously you're doing something wrong.
But yes,
You're stunting your creativity there.
It's
that's
just
the basis, not the main event.
it's the carnival uniform of the crew of Chad.
Oh, well, yes. Oh, let's talk about the crew of Chad.
Let's talk about
shall
the crew
we?
of Chad, shall we?
The entire thing started because of the annual jockeying for position in the neutral grounds on Canal Street for
Right.
Endymion. Now Crew of Chad has come to mean pretty much exactly what we were just discussing. People who show up, lay claim to everything, don't really participate, behave in an untoward manner towards everyone else, and then leave a mess.
Well, the crew of Chad, the reigning monarchs are, the king is Chad. The queen is Karen. Where's the manager?
No one likes you, Karen.
No one likes you, Karen.
No one likes you, Karen.
Yeah, I remember growing up, like before going out to the parade route, with my dad and my sister and all that, we'd turn on Channel 4
Oh, yes.
to see,
Oh, yes.
what all of the newscasters were dressed in out on the parade route.
Yep.
And then to see like a little bit of like the costume contest as, people would walk past the grandstands.
Yes.
And you'd see like, it was kind of like watching the Crescent City Classic, to where you'd see
I thought you were
like
going to say
a
National
whole-
Geographic.
like a whole group of people would be dressed as crawfish.
Perfect.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Like,
Group
yeah.
costuming.
Yeah, there'd be a whole group of people who would be like following them immediately, dressed as chefs with
And you're
like big paddles.
And there's always invariably an entire family dressed up as all the characters in Wizard of Oz, including
Yeah.
the house with the legs.
yes,
But Yeah.
But
Why don't they do that anymore?
Precisely. That tradition has now started to go away as well. I can't remember the last time we saw a group of costume. Well, except for the people we know from Disney.
Well, no, but I mean, there are people in the quarter who do.
They do. But
Remember
you
the year
don't
that there was
see
the green toy soldiers and they had the gun, they're like, I can't even say the word.
Every
It's a
once in a
tank.
while, I'll go to St. Charles prior to Zulu, and I'll walk down St. Charles to formerly known as Lee Circle. I'll just say Circle, but I like that walk because you got to see everyone strutting their costumes.
Yes.
Right.
Especially group costumes. So you do see them. They're just not.
As plentiful as
Not as plentiful as
they
before.
were.
But when you
really
find them,
contained
you're like, that
downtown.
is such a good
That
idea.
is so cool.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there's nothing better than watching either a single person, a couple, or a group peacocking on Mardi Gras Day.
Oh, yeah.
Strutting their stuff, showing off. That's great.
The Professor made his debut on WWL television in 1996, and for the first 5 or 6 years that I was there, it was myself and the late Frank Davis, and we would always be down on St. Charles Avenue, usually right in front of the Burger King, and the two of us would just marvel at the group costumes that would come marching up the street.
But Frank was just so easy to communicate
It's
with
true.
on
It's
and
true.
off camera. It was natural.
Frank was just an utterly charming man, very delightful, knowledgeable about the city. But today we're now up on St. Charles Avenue, close to Gallier Hall, at the advocate offices, and we seldom, if ever, see any of those costumed groups coming through any longer.
The only costume groups we see would be like Pete Fountain's Half Fast or
Mondo Cayo.
Mondo
Yeah.
Cayo. Maybe Buzzards if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Is there a prize for the greatest costume?
No, I don't
Only
think there
on
ever
Bourbon
was.
Street.
On the Bourbon Street Awards, yes, there is a costume contest.
Okay.
Yeah, but when
Maybe that has to be made into a new tradition.
Well, but like
Prize.
Well, like he was saying, years ago, Channel 4 and Channel 6 started having their dueling stages on Canal Street on the neutral ground.
Yeah.
And they would find anything in the crowd and grab them up, come, parade in front of us.
Yeah.
Make a spectacle of yourself. That's what we're here for.
I remember for years, like when we would get to the parade route, for the longest time there was a group of my friends and I that I would dress as the Pope of Party, where my miter was a empty 12-pack of beer, and
Classic costume, really.
one year I show up as the Pope of Party, and everyone else is dressed as nuns. And like, they get there, and we immediately, the first thing we did was we went walking down the parade route
And
to
why
the
wouldn't you?
grandstand.
Yes, indeed.
Just like you said, to peacock it off. And, as we had a tradition where the first year that we did it, someone brought donuts. And one of my buddies, he was dressed as a priest, so he's opening up, and he's like, and now a reading from the Book of Glazed. And he'd open up this empty box of donuts, and I think he had like 2 or 3 pieces of paper in there that just had essentially gibberish on them. And he would like read to the cops and be like, and may the bathrooms always be plentiful for the police officers. May there be tasty donuts that are warm.
Amen.
Amen.
You just hit upon something that is
You always
important.
have hot product.
Treating the police force with respect. They're
Absolutely.
having a tough job. Give them a little laugh. Give them something to eat or drink. Be polite to them. It's a tough job policing people at Mardi Gras.
The
Yeah.
medics and EMS.
Yes.
They have to deal with
Yes.
a lot of
All the
crazy
first
stuff.
responders who are on the
Yep.
parade route for our safety.
Yep.
Respect them.
Yeah, if it wasn't for them, Mardi Gras really wouldn't happen.
Right.
We've been doing a big to-do for Bacchus Sunday, the corner, for years and years and years. But we always bring tons of food and all that. So first thing in the morning, well, number one, we're going to be making noise and having some fun. So we want to make friends with the police officers.
Yes.
So the first thing we do is like, hey, man, plenty of food, drink, and all that. Help yourselves. And
Yes, indeed. That's the way to do it.
One year we had donuts, and we went over to the cops, and they're like, really? And we're like, come on.
How
Really?
cliche.
Yeah.
You know you want a donut.
It's Mardi Gras. Of course it's a cliche.
Yeah, we both totally support our police officers and first responders, as you said.
Yes. So, where can people follow y'all on Facebook and?
Well, you got to begin with the
online
police reports.
I have a lovely picture in the post office.
It's fantastic. We want to get it enlarged and framed.
You can follow both of us on Facebook at either Professor Carl Nivale or Grand Marshal Marty Graw, all one word. You can also follow us on Twitter at Prof. Carl Nivale and Instagram at Prof. Carl Nivale.
You have NOLA Voice Theater.
You can follow
on
us
Facebook.
at NOLA Voice Theater, which is available at nolavoicetheater.com. That's theater spelled Theatre.
And Simply Stunning Designs -NOLA for the costume stuff.
Which
And
is also on Facebook.
So, just to touch base with a couple of the events that I know that y'all have going on. Obviously, as we've discussed a few times, the Carl Nivale and Mardi Gras show.
the Carl Nivale
February
Show at
7th,
Gallier Hall.
8th and 9th. I'm sorry, I had to do it.
That's
Thank you,
Andrew's
Igor.
job.
Well, you didn't
Yes.
let me finish.
Yes, the Professor Carl
That was
Nivale
the
Show
joke.
will be happening February 7th, 8th, and 9th at Gallier Hall. All of the tickets are free, courtesy of the Mayor's Office of Cultural Economy. You do have to go and make reservations, though. It's a very small theater. Only 105 seats are available for
But
each
the sign-up
performance.
process is quick and easy, very painless.
And you won't even be asked for a card. They just want to know you're coming.
Yes.
And you can find that at carlnivale.eventbrite.com. And don't forget to watch us on Mardi Gras Morning on WWL Television's morning show with Eric Paulson and Sheba Turk.
And I might add, we have several dates coming up at the King Cake Hub.
Yes.
Whereby we
Oh,
will
yes,
be
on
going
Lunch and
in this coming week and talking for the is it Lunch and Learn
Yes.
Yeah.
series, and we're going to be talking about the show and a bunch of other stuff. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm doing a costume thing with Nori Pritchard of NOLA Craft Culture. Also, I'm doing a couple of workshops over at NOLA Craft Culture through Simply Stunning Designs. It's going to be Marty Accessories. They're making headpieces and masks, things and stuff. But I was like, well, what about accessories? So I'll be making medallions and pinback badges and such. And then the second is going to be masks.
All right.
So there's a lot of stuff that we do that's not necessarily broadcast, but thankfully we're getting the chance to do all that kind of stuff while everybody else is enjoying doing the same things all over the city.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff going on. It's remarkable.
And then, of course, out at Gallier Hall throughout the carnival season.
The Professor Carl Nivale Show at Gallier Hall.
February 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yay, thank you.
And then
weren't
once the
able
show is closed, your humble professor will be back up on the stands at Gallier Hall narrating most of the parades this carnival season.
Yes.
Someone called me the voice of Carnival at Mardi Gras the other day, and
yeah.
at Gallier Hall the other day, and I enjoyed that.
And yeah, that fits perfectly. That fits perfectly.
Yeah, because years ago, the voice of Mardi Gras was always Mel Levitt.
Oh, Mel Levitt, yes.
You know, Mel and his
witness.
broadcasts. It's like, that's what we had when we had 3 channels to get up and turn the TV on. You know, just...
Now, I have a question for you, actually.
Ooh.
We,
Oh, the tables have been
the
turned.
tables have been turned. Now, we watch the meeting of the courts every year. That's our closure for the entire season. Do you watch the meeting of the courts?
I usually do have it on. I've got a lot
having
going.
it on and watching it, 2 different things. We're leading up to something.
I'm watching, but there's also still a lot of people here because my house is
Oh, yes.
a central point.
Well, of course, and
For
you
the-
have this
the
great
Mardi
room
Gras
back here, and you
festivities.
don't have a pool anybody can fall in.
So a lot of times while we have it on, there's still a party going on.
Like 5 or
Around,
6.
so-
Allow
You're
us to
seeing-
point something out to you that you can make this into a party game.
Okay.
It's all you.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, it's always just fun to watch for certain things that happen. One of the fun things to watch is when they start gathering the lines and they start walking to the king and queen and they're all pumping. And there's always one poor lady who is like, you know,
She tries, poor thing. She
She's in
tries.
Kenner. She's in Kenner. Come on, honey. And just
I'm
watching them
coming.
talk to them and the faces, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun to be had watching it, not just for the history, but it's just fun people watching.
Oh yeah,
You're
people
getting
watch it.
yeah.
the curtains being pulled back, and you're seeing this part of Mardi Gras history happen that a lot of people don't experience. And so, thankfully, Peggy Ann and Channel 12, they broadcast it every year, and it's actually a joy to sit and watch. And then, of course, now that we don't have the auditorium, and one ball's in this hotel, and on the other side of Canal Street's the other ball,
Yeah.
and Rex has to go over across
Yeah,
Canal
across the
Street,
street.
Canal Street, no matter what the weather is, to get over to the Comus Ball. It's a lot more interesting than people give it credit for.
And we know people who watch the ball every year, but they watch it for vastly different reasons than we do.
Yeah.
And they like to get their friends together and sit around. And I admit there is a certain amount of enjoyment that goes along with watching the young debutantes as they're being presented at court and walking around. Just watching their faces to make, because you're looking for any little thing.
Oh, honey, you're not ready yet. You're not done cooking. Oh,
There's been a number of years where we've seen some truly lovely debutantes walk out and they have that look on their faces like, I'm never going to survive this. How do I get through
scared to
this?
death, the poor things.
Are we done? Are we done? Can I sit down? Good. All right.
Yeah, seeing them all get introduced in the beginning there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I wish that we saw more of the Comus Ball
Yes.
with the dancing heads.
Yeah.
I do enjoy
Because
the
Comus
dancing
is much
heads
more
every
of a
year.
tableau.
True.
Every group of the crew comes out and they're telling a story, the theme, and there's tableau vivants and there's professional ballerinas and dancers doing routines throughout. So it's a theatrical experience.
There's a fantastic show that none of us ever get to see. Only the members of Comus get to witness it.
And
Comus is
their
always,
guests.
even when they paraded, were always just more concentrated on their ball.
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah,
when
because
it-
Oh, yes.
they were
when
drunk
that
as all get out during the parade,
Yeah.
and then they go right into the auditorium. I mean, I remember many nights just waiting there for the floats and make sure everybody's on there, and then running into the ball right afterwards. It's like they were just primed for the ball.
Yeah, that's all. Well, it didn't seem that many of them were even interested in the
But it still
parade, to
doesn't
be
feel
honest.
like New Orleans Mardi Gras anymore without that
It needs
season
a-
closing
it needs a night
parade.
We
That
do need
final
a night
parade.
parade. Just
I
one.
seriously doubt if we will ever see another
Honestly,
night parade.
That
in
crew of
Comus slots.
that crew of America
Somebody-
tried for several years, and it
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I
It-
remember
it-
when
It
they
wasn't the
tried.
right reason.
It failed, and quite frankly, the celebrations have changed so much now at this juncture because we're well over 20 years since Comus last rolled. The city has gone through a change of generations, a change of general population, and that Tuesday night, that Mardi Gras evening where Comus used to roll, is. I seriously doubt we'll ever see another parade roll in that slot.
I think that's why
The
we
city is already closing everything down at that point. The NOPD is getting ready to march down Rue Bourbon, and you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
But
and
that's
go-
why we enjoy the meeting of the court broadcast, because at least that's something.
True.
Still
That-
Mardi
Yeah.
Gras.
It really is
it's
the
still Mardi
culmination of the
Gras.
evening.
Oh,
Well, that's one other tradition that I do have on Mardi Gras night is watching the police do that.
Oh, yes.
That march down Bourbon, and a lot of times you can watch it on, I think Bourbon Cam or
Oh,
one
yes,
of the
yes.
like. There's one of the camera sight things to where you can pretty much watch when they start off, and you see the row of horse police officers, the row of cops, then the street sweepers, then you see like the mayor and the mayor and the police chief and
Right.
his whole battalion behind him
I think it's
doing
just
that walk.
it's
Yeah.
good just to let people on Bourbon Street know, okay, it really is officially over. You can still party.
Yeah.
Just
But
not out
Mardi
there.
Gras is
Come
officially
back in 5
over
minutes,
now.
you know.
So, at least there's a curtain on the event for
And
those people.
It is amazing to me. This is the miracle
What's
of Carnival.
amazing to you?
This is the miracle of Carnival to me. Is every Ash Wednesday morning when you get up and the quarter looks like it did before the party started.
Yeah.
That astounds me. Every single year it astounds me. Particularly having to be out in the trash most of the time, and I know it's coming up
Yeah.
over my ankles. But Ash Wednesday morning, everything is, for the most part, is cleared away on St. Charles, cleared away on Canal, cleared away in the Vauqueray.
Yeah, we're usually still moving out when the street sweepers all come by after Bacchus and all. And that is a mess. There's
Oh,
been
yes.
5 parades so far that day, and pretty large.
It
ones as
accumulates.
well. So like, it's deep over there, and when they come through, I mean, it is cleared out. I'm like, wow, this is nicer than it was this morning when we got
Yes.
there.
Now, if only the city could afford the enzyme that Disney gave the city when we premiered The Hunchback of Notre Dame here in '96.
2 solid weeks.
The French
Quarter
Quarter
smelled
for
like
2
baby
weeks.
powder.
Baby powder and wildflowers everywhere. It was the most amazing experience. Thank you, company. But it's like, oh, yeah, that would...
And for 2 or 3
Help.
days afterwards, it was just lovely. But that 3rd day, boy, it came back and it hit hard.
It came hard.
It was upset. It was not happy.
Well, I remember those few years when SDT was doing the cleanup in the quarter, and you could go down in the quarter, and like it would actually smell like
There was
that
like
limonene
lemon
smell.
scent. Yeah.
Yeah, they did help with an enzyme that helped, but
Yeah, but like you said, 2 hours after they were done.
smell good, fix the streets. Smell good, fix the street. Which one? They're not going to
Yeah.
do either one.
No.
I take the smell
They're
good.
going to do either one.
Stop with the construction already.
Well, if you knock the tire off of your
implosions.
car in a pothole, at least you don't have to smell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're nearing the end of the episode, but a thought just came to me. Does anyone in this room know a person who works on Bourbon Street during Mardi Gras Day?
Yes.
Or has
Quite a
ever?
number of people who have, and some still do.
What is what is their general consensus like, or of their experiences? Is it,
It's
like
another
a-
day of work, but there's more people, so they're
Yeah.
heightened sensitivity and
because
protection.
I turn the TV on and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to Bourbon. Because
Yeah,
Well, a lot of
it-
times-
Well, I mean, why go to bourbon anyway?
A lot of times, though, if you work in those clubs, though, you're basically signing up to work
For
more.
that.
Oh, yeah, you're
Yeah.
signing
A lot
up
of
for
times
this.
You, have to
You
stay
know what
there.
you're getting
Not
into.
even leaving.
Precisely.
The rest of the year is all training
yeah.
from Mardi Gras.
And for
you
most
think
people
they're
that
not
work
leaving.
down in the Vieux Carré, particularly on Rue Bourbon, that is the time of the year where, just like the businesses, they make the largest chunk of cash.
Yeah,
And
that's
you're not
their
going to
Black
find a lot of
Friday.
newbies. You're going to find seasoned people
Oh, yes.
working. You're not going to find a lot of,
Because they don't
so-and-so
survive.
just got in from Indiana, with a suitcase in her hand. Oh, I'm going to work on Bourbon Street. And it don't work that way. No. Those people are seasoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Like a steak.
Yeah. With
Yeah.
the amount of drink
Roasting.
that you're making.
Oh, yes.
The amount of people that you're serving food.
Exactly.
The amount of people that you're
The
luring into
bathrooms.
clubs.
I can only imagine the bathroom.
Yeah.
No, well, you can, and you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not like you're working for Disney and you have to say "Have a nice day" or "Have a magical day." You can think whatever you want, but you have to say "Have a magical day." Here, you can tell them whatever you want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can do that at Universal Studios as well.
This is true.
I've been there and seen it happen.
Yep,
Nice.
it's true. We're not Disney. We can say whatever we want.
Not quite as politely, but yes.
Yeah.
So this interview has been an absolute pleasure for us.
Thank you so much
Oh,
for
I
having
hope
us
so.
here. We've had a marvelous time.
I feel like we could literally talk for the next 2 hours.
Forever and
Yeah,
ever and
absolutely.
ever,
You wouldn't care, but we would.
But it's when you gather people like-minded who enjoy something like this and can get together and share it with people out there who enjoy it. Now, that's marvelous. So thank you both for inviting us.
Yes,
and thank you
absolutely.
for
Thank you again.
masterminding us from the balcony up there.
So again, I want to remind everybody, February 7th, 8th, and 9th.
The Professor
The Professor Carl Nivale Show in Gallier
Pickle,
Hall.
stop stealing my job.
I'm sorry.
Stole his
Let's
line.
go to our announcer and find out where we should be. Announcer.
February 7th, 8th, and 9th at Gallier Hall.
At
Gallier
where?
Hall.
What is it?
Gallagher Hall is in
Gallier.
Wisconsin.
Gallier Hall. Whoops. He stole my sheet. I was using it.
Oh, she.
And please remember, all tickets are free for the Professor
Yes.
Carl Nivale Show. When?
February 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Online at Professor Carl.
No. Online at carlnivale.eventbrite.com, and we will see you at the show. And come prepared for King Cake.
Oh,
And
yeah.
fun.
Thank y'all so much for
Thank
coming.
you, gentlemen.
I look forward to seeing you all on the stage,
Don't you threaten us.
and we will see you out on the route. Happy Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras.